Boundaries are easier to set than you think and easier to enforce. The problem is you don't have the right framework. But you're in luck because today I'm going to share a framework with you. But first, I want to talk a little bit about what a boundary is and what a boundary isn't. Because one thing I know is that a lot of times people talk about boundaries as if it's controlling other people's behavior. That we set a boundary and that boundary is related to other people's behavior. In fact, that's not true. We can't control other people's behavior. The only thing that you can control is your own actions and reactions. So when you're thinking about boundaries and setting boundaries for yourself, you want to be thinking about your actions. What can you do? How are you holding the boundary around you? And so when we think about boundaries, I want to give you an example of this, right? Let's say that you would like to set a boundary around work. And that boundary is that you're not going to be answering emails late into the evening. Maybe say you don't want to answer emails after 7 p.m. Well, setting a boundary would be, I don't check emails after 7 p.m. What setting a boundary is not is you can't email me outside of the hours of 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. You can't control when other people email you. What you can control is your own behavior about when you're going to check email, right? Now that we've got that settled, we know what a boundary is and what it isn't. I want to share with you this framework that I learned. And I learned this in a context of teenagers, actually. I learned this from an organization who helps kids navigate through the challenges of sexuality, relationships, technology, etc. And they had this framework. It's called FIRM, F-I-R-M, FIRM. And I'm going to tell you what that means in a second. But I thought as soon as I heard this, I need to share it with everybody else because this is something that everybody needs in their lives. So I'm going to share with you the framework FIRM. First, it's the F. Figure out your boundary. What is the boundary that you want to set? Now, let's just use the example that I gave right before about email. So the boundary might be, I am not going to be checking email after 7 p.m., right? Then the I, inform others. Now, with this particular aspect, you don't need to go around shouting at the workplace, hey, I don't answer emails after 7 p.m. Like that would be a little weird, right? But what you might do is put an out of office reply after 7 p.m. saying, hey, I'll be back in my inbox, at 8 a.m. Here's how to get me in an emergency. Or maybe you put that as your Slack status that says, hey, I'm offline right now. I'll be back at 8 a.m. or whatever it is. So you can inform people in a more subtle way. You don't need to go shouting it from the rooftops. Then the R, so F-I-R. The R is for reason. Give a reason. Now, you don't always need to give a reason, but there are going to be circumstances where you will want to give a reason, right? And so in this circumstance that we're talking about, maybe you want to put it in your out-of-office reply that says, I'm taking a break and that's why I am not doing this. I actually have this in my out of office reply that happens on the weekend. So I don't check email between Thursday evening and Sunday, or actually Monday morning, because I'm not in the office from Friday to Sunday. And so I actually have an out of office reply that goes out that just says, hey, I will be in my inbox on Monday. And if you want to understand why I'm not checking email on the weekend, here's an article I wrote about why taking breaks is really good for your productivity, right? So you don't always need to give a reason, but in that case I am, because people might be interested. They might want to know, why is it that I am taking this break from email? And then lastly, it is the M, so F-I-R-M. And the M stands for make a suggestion, right? So we're not just saying, hey, I don't do this, we are going to make a suggestion. So in this example that I'm giving you right here, it is the hours that you are available, right? So I'm not just saying, hey, I don't check email after X hours. I'm saying, hey, I'm available between, Monday morning and Thursday afternoon, excepting weekends or whatever it is. So I'm telling people when it is they can get a hold of me. Now, this is just a very simple example of a type of boundary. There are so many types of boundaries that we have. We have, financial boundaries, physical boundaries, emotional boundaries. Like we have all sorts of boundaries that we may want to set, time boundaries. And I'm just giving you one simple example here, but I want you to understand that this FIRM framework, this is something that you can use no matter what realm the boundary exists in. Now, if you have a different framework that you're using that works really well for you, drop it in the comments. I want to hear. If you're willing to try this framework, drop it in the comments. And if you have a boundary and you're not sure how this framework applies to it, drop it in the comments. I will comment back and I will let you know. Now, if you like this kind of content and you want more of it in your feed, make sure to subscribe.